Right, this is lesson 1.1, expressions and formulas. Today we're going to use order of operations to evaluate expressions and also use some formulas. So just a review of some vocabulary. Evaluate means to find the value of an expression. Inequality is an open sentence that contains symbols such as this: less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. Power, an expression of the form of x to the n. Power reads x to that nth power. So the x is our base number. That's the number that's actually being multiplied. The n tells us how many times to multiply that base by itself. The whole thing, though, is really considered the power. A lot of times you'll hear that exponent being referred to as the power as well. So let's go ahead and talk about and review order of operations. So variables are letters that are used to represent unknown quantities. So unknown quantities. Still haven't gotten my new Smart Slate yet. All right, algebraic expressions are expressions that contain at least one variable are called algebraic expressions. It's kind of a repeat of what it was already saying. So it has at least one variable. So just a couple of examples of some expressions would be 2x plus x, or maybe 4 squared plus 2. Those are just some expressions that we would simplify. So in order to simplify these, we have to have a process or an order of our operations, how we're going to do that. So PEMDAS, or please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, might have heard of it, remember that, is to start with step 1, evaluate the expression inside parenthesis symbols, or the grouping symbols, because a lot of times you might not just have parentheses. So let's put grouping. Powers are also called, and we talked about that up above, exponents. Multiplication and division. So one is not better than the other. They're kind of on an equal playing field. If you have both, you're going to go from left to right, just like reading a book. Same thing with addition and subtraction. Those are, one's not coming before the other. If we had both, we'd go left to right. So let's go ahead and do a couple of examples together here. First step, when evaluating each expression, if we're given the values of these, we're going to plug those in. So x is 2, y is -5. So our first step was the grouping symbols, in this case parentheses. So we're going to take and simplify that to -7. Bring everything else down. Next we do exponents. That was step 2. So -7 squared. -7 times -7 is +49. And then our last step would be addition, to add those two things together to get 51. And that's my final answer. So for the next one, again, we start by just plugging those numbers in. Excuse me. So 2 minus 4 minus -5 squared. Notice that double negative there. So if you want to go ahead and change that to positive, then we're going to simplify inside the grouping symbols and then do the exponent. So 9 squared is 81. Bring everything else down as you're going. 2 minus 81 is -79. All right, go ahead and try that next one on your own. Again, pause the video, and that way you give yourself some time to work, and then check when you're ready. parentheses first. Okay, now we just have division and multiplication. Remember, one is not better than the other, so we go from left to right. So in this case, we are going to do that division first. So if we have that as division, that's not going to be very pretty. So let's kind of leave it as a fraction, and we're going to multiply that by 5. Now, if you want to put that 5 over 1 so that you can just multiply across with those fractions, you can also use your calculator and type in -5 divided by 2, enter, times 5. But we do want to leave it in simplest form, so I'm going to leave it as -25 halves. So multiply the numerators, multiply the denominator, and then we can't simplify that any further because there's no number that goes into 25 and 2. So that's as simplified as possible. Leave as a rational number. Okay, go ahead and try that next one. Again, pause if you need to. So we have multiplication and division, so again, left to right. I'm just going to take it one step at a time. So division, -10 divided by -1 is a positive 10. Times it by 2, and we get 20. Right, so a couple more just complicated examples, but still the same steps as above of plugging in. This one you probably have to use that calculator. Make sure to plug everything into the right spot. So first step is parentheses, or the grouping here. So subtracting that would give me -8.2. I'm going to just bring everything else down. Next step is parentheses, or exponents. We already did parentheses. So squaring that. So in your calculator, finding the square button. If you're unsure about where that is, let's take a quick look at where you would find that on your calculator. As many of you, graphing calculators probably knew. So finding out where all those buttons are is going to be pretty important. And lots of calculators are different. So they might be in a different spot, but a similar symbol. So if you have a calculator that looks similar to this, it does have a squaring button automatically. So you could just type in, looks like we're taking -3.2, and then over here on the left, it has little X to the second power button. That would square it, enter. Or if you want to take it to another power, you could use this little, we call it a caret button. So -3.2, then you'd hit the caret and whatever power you want to take it to, so second, and it would take it to that power. So back to our lesson here. So our answer was -10.24 times -8.2. So since there's multiplication here, we're going to do that before we do that addition. So I'm just going to kind of move it over off to the side here. So it's 5 plus, and when we multiply these two things together, we'd get 83.968. And then finally addition to get -70. Oops, that was a negative. Negative, it's a positive. There we go. Making sure that was in parentheses on our calculator, which I didn't do, because a negative to the second power, negative times a negative, it should be positive. So adding that would be -78.968 as our final answer. So try that number 2 on your own. Okay, once everything's plugged in, we're going to do multiplication, or our exponents and then our multiplication. So working our way across, negative 3 to the fourth. So again, go back to your calculator and in parentheses, negative 3 to the, so that caret button, fourth, enter. And sometimes it might be an x to the y power symbol. Just depends on your calculator. So 81. Soon you'll have that one memorized. Right? Power here, negative 5 to the third power is going to give you negative 125 plus 8. Just multiply those two quick. All right. Working our way across, we're going to do this multiplication here before we subtract. So it's 81. That would be negative 12 times negative 5 is positive 60. I'm skipping just a couple of steps ahead. You can write each step out though if you need to. And that would be negative 117. So we have 141 over negative 117. Now, a way to check and see if that could be simplified is there is a fraction button on your calculator. So what you could do is take 141 divided by negative 117, and then go to the math button and hit, sorry, that first option, fraction. So just enter, enter, and it does reduce. It reduces to negative 47 over 39. So it reduces it for you, which is really nice. So negative 47 over 39. I think that was right. Yep. And there's our final reduced answer. All right, let's take a look at formulas. So formulas, it's a mathematical sentence that expresses the relationship between certain quantities. If you know the value of every variable in the formula except one, you can find the value of the remaining. So here's an example. H is the number of hits, W walks, P the player has been hit by a pitch, B number of times at bat, and then S is the sacrifice flies and sacrifice bunts. So we're going to just go ahead and plug these in. Looks like this is the number of 10 weeks season has been 9 hits, so that's our H. 2 walks, that's our W. Bats, that's going to be B. Sacrifices, that's going to be S. And hit by a pitch, it looks like is P. So we're going to go ahead and just fill all those parts in. So it looks like we have H, W, and P. So 9 is H, W is 2, and P is 1. And then B is 38, W is 2, P is 1, and S is 5. And this is all going to equal X. So now we just simplify going left to right, addition, add all those up, 12 over 46. And again, on your calculator, if you're not sure how to reduce, kind of the quick way, 12 divided by 46. Then go to the math button and then enter, because it's already on fraction, and then enter again, and it's 6 over 23. And yep, they just cut that in half. Cut the top in half, cut the bottom in half. You could also turn that into a percent or decimal by just dividing 6 divided by 23.26 and moving that decimal places 2 places to the left to get 26% for your answer there. All right, last one. We're going to start with our formula. We're going to plug in for our variables. Looks like in our picture the radius halfway up here is 75. So if you want to, you could put R equals 75. H, height, is 225. And then you can plug it in from there if that makes a little more sense. So it's radius squared, height 225, and then just simplify. It's all multiplication after our exponent. So exponent first and then just multiply. So 1/3 pi. There's our 75